Hey all, it's Jeff, No Zoom Mondays. Welcome to those new to the channel and welcome back to those that have already subscribed. Thank you for that. Today's topic around retirement is going to be about expenses. Couple key areas there are expenses and budgeting prior to retirement and what that level look like. And then secondly, kind of once we've gotten into retirement, that expense level and budget, and they're different. Actually, now that we're in retirement, our expenses have went up and I'll show you why. So stay tuned with that. Lastly, I'll give you kind of some key takeaways for what we found along the way so far in 5.5, 6 months worth of retirement and spending along the way. So let's jump into it. Start with level setting around the spend buckets. Spend buckets will be different pre-retirement versus post-retirement. Pre-retirement, what we have is 3 buckets. One is around fixed spend. These are your living costs like shelter and transportation, loans you might have, student loans or other loans, car or something, healthcare you might be spending on, food. Second bucket would be around discretionary spend, money you have left over that you want to do fun things with, like entertainment or going on a vacation or taking an adventure or doing travel. All of those things would add up to that. And last but not least, pre-retirement, when you're having income come in, you have the ability to fill up your savings both in an emergency fund as well as investments. Of course, now that Beth and I are in retirement, the buckets change, right? There's only 2 of them. The fixed spend that I mentioned, and then there is the discretionary spend that you want. No longer do you have an income, so you're not saving any money. So as we move forward, though, I'll be talking about these 2 in relative to Beth and I's expense spend pre and post retirement. We'll be talking about the budgets that I set up will be around fixed expenses, both pre and post. That's what they'll be. The tool that I'll show you the budgets in and how we measure to that in regards to our actual spend will be based on this fixed spend, both in pre and post. And lastly, with regards to post-retirement nominal spend, I have over a course of time with the portfolio we've got, expectations of Social Security, et cetera, I see about $10K a month nominal spend is what I'm trying to hit every month forward in retirement. As I showed through this video, you'll see how close we've come to that across retirement for about 5 months, 6 months now, be able to show you how close we've gotten to that nominal spend. So with that, here we go. Let's jump into actual spend through the tool known as Quicken. I've mentioned this tool many times in the past, many videos. Again, I strongly encourage, if you don't have a budgeting tool on your monthly spend, either if you're in retirement, great, or not in retirement, suggest you have one so you're making sure you're on track, staying on the road, if you will, not in the ditches on your spend. Just want to highlight the facts of my budgets that I've set up on the fixed spend component only. You'll see in 2021, since I retired at the end of February, I have put in 0 income expected. That's the top line. I have also put in our fixed expected spend each month. So in January, February, it looked like around $3,300, $3,400 is what we expect to spend in our fixed budget. You can see by the end of the year in December, it's getting closer to $6,900 to $7,000 per this fixed budget, and I'll show you why as we walk through specific months and the tool, show you where that money and that change in expenses actually happen. And that's the tool, that's the actual overall spend profile on the fixed budget only. And again, as I show this to you, the only other thing I want to note in here is that the budgeting tool itself allows you to actually set up categories of spend where you expect those spend to come in. Do you have an auto expenses? Do you have auto loans? Do you have gas costs? Your bills, electricity, water, HOA fees, internet fees, streaming TV fees, all of those are things that you can put in here, health insurance, etc. Those are the things that I've been able to fill out. I won't go through these now, but I did fill out these budgets and these categories, which have subcategories underneath, like this one, car wash or gas and fuel costs or service, if you're servicing it, or if you're parking it somewhere, all of those would be places you might have expenses if you have an auto. So those are the top level categories and the sub levels right here. And again, this is important as we work through this tool to understand our flow pre-retirement and post-retirement on our expenses. So let's get out of this. And the first month I want to show is actually the last month of expenses that I was working. And that was in February. Beth retired in March. So in February, looks like I had $12 of interest come in. In regards to expenses, now this is a great part of this tool. This shows me that I had, as you saw just a second ago, around $3,300, $3,400 a month expected in my fixed budget. That doesn't include any of the fun or discretionary bucket, but this is just the fixed budget. And so I had $3,400. However, it's red, which means I've spent over that, which I hope to, because two things. One, I want to have fun every month. We do. And two, again, the nominal spend that I hope to hit every month is around $10K, which is what I think would be fair. Close to that number, which would be what my portfolio and my assets would allow me to have in retirement for 30 plus years. It looks like I've got about $5,700. And so where would I, if I was interested in understanding where this $2,300 of extra expense came in during the month, let me see if I could pinpoint that with this tool real quick. In my auto and transport high level category, I expected fixed budget of about $220 or fixed expense, and I did about $181 in this category. Looks like my fuel expense was very similar to what I expected, about $200, and I paid less tolls. And I didn't have any parking, 0 here and expected 10. So that's the delta difference. Not a big difference, so it's not a big deal. In the bills and utility, this is around $1,500 of real expense. I expected around $1,500 in my budgeted expense, which is good. So I'm very close. AAA. Electric look a little lower than what I thought it might have been for us that month. Insurance for the car is a little less than what I thought. I had to get internet, a little less than what I thought. I had to park a car, had an HOA, right? You probably have HOA fees. In this case, it was right on. I have a storage shed that Beth and I use to store stuff outside the loft and stream some TV. But one of the things in here you don't see is any medical insurance. As we show in the next graph, there'll be a difference in that. ATM, getting cash is about $200, which is what I grabbed. Entertainment. So again, this was in the fun bucket. Looks like I had February of this year spent over $460 over. Again, this is not unexpected because we want to have fun. It's just an area above my fixed budget that I set up here. We went adventuring. I know for a fact in February we went snow skiing in Pagosa Springs at Wolf Creek. So that's probably some of this. Bet. We watched some movies, looked at some music. Here's one. In February I was to spend about $1,000, if you will, in the food and dining area, fixed expense, but we spent about $1,500. Where did that go? $99 towards coffee. I have a Starbucks habit that I need to quit. Let's see, groceries, about $1,000. Beth and I love to eat. We eat well, and then we were about $1,200 for the two of us that we've got there, so a little bit over there. We went out to dinner, about $138 there. So that adds up cost. A little noted, health and fitness. I expect to spend about $40 on health and fitness towards Gold's Gym. It looks like I'm over on that. I know I had to go see a doctor. I had an injury that happened in February, and so part of that extra expense came here. So no worries there. And the rest of this is pretty bland. I spend money naturally every month on my kids in the fixed budget realm. I help with some insurance and an iPhone. So that expense all is right. And then lastly, I did mention that travel was an area we went in February. There's $985. This would include home away, a cost to actually travel and fly. We went to Pagosa Springs, so we flew, and then we rented a car, etc. So that's good. Net in February was I hope to spend about $3,400 on my fixed expenses, which through the tool I got hit that. However, we spent $5,600 that month, $2,300 over in the fun category, which was to be expected. It's something I budgeted for, and again, well below that $10,000 a month that I'm trying to hit. So that's good. So one would ask, okay, well, Jeff, how's it look today post-retirement? What's that look like in regards to your expenses? Well, let's take a look. I put together a comparison report through the tool. This compares February fixed expenses and fun expenses to what we did in August. And so if you take a look at this report, you'll see is here's February and here's August. Here I was employed, here I was not. Basically, no difference in income per se. Again, I normalized it. No income in retirement. My expense buckets, you can see pre-retirement, post, significant change, about $5,700, $5,800 difference. Where'd that come from? A little bit in the auto world, spent more on gas, I would guess, or parking and tolls or service. In the bills and utility, though, this is the one that I was talking about earlier. Here's a big one. If I take a look at that in detail, if you come down here and look at the delta, there's the big difference between February and August is around healthcare. So medical, vision, dental, the whole kit and caboodle. Basically, what you'll see here is that in February, my company picked it up, and so does Beth's. However, now in August, I've got insurance that we're paying for Beth, myself, and my 2 children. And so right now, through Cobra, through the previous employer's Cobra offering, I'm able to get this about $3,000 a month for health insurance. As you can tell through my overall budget, $3,000 on, quote, the $7,000 overall fixed expense budget I had, that's 45% or so of my budget's just being spent on healthcare. And so it's a huge cost. It's one we should all be worried about and wondering how we're going to pay long term. I offered today, I've done some research. I hope others on this channel can help tell us what they've done to lower or whittle away some of these costs. At a high level, I tried to lower it by going directly to Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas because I live in Texas. But if I went direct and not through my Cobra offering, the same package for the same deductibles and healthcare package would have been around $3,500. So it was just cheaper for me to stay with Cobra. But this is an area, as we move forward, will be a huge double-click area I'm going to spend and trying to reduce the cost, keep the benefits as high as they are, but reduce the costs as I can. So stay tuned on this. There'll be another video as I move forward to try to reduce this cost. Other areas that changed because of February pre-retirement to post, looks like we spent more money on entertainment in August than we did in February. That just an expense, not necessarily going to be the same every month. Looks like provided a bit more gifts, if you will, during this month. Funny thing is, Beth's birthday is in August, so I know that's what that's based upon, more gift giving in this month versus February. Looks like spent a little bit more money on the home. I know I bought a Nest thermostat. That's part of this over the month of August. Also had an opportunity. My kids are headed back to school the month of August, and great time out, running around the town, buying a bunch of clothing and other supplies they needed, and spent a great day with them. So there was quite a bit of expense there. And it looks like from a travel perspective, we didn't rent anything, no VRBO, no home away, no rental car in the month of August versus February. So that's the expenses I would offer. As you see this quickly, the health insurance is the big expense that, although planned for, is something that I need to work on and we all need to be prepared for as we move into retirement. So there you go. That's the comparison. Last but not least, how are Beth and Jeff doing, if you will, since March 1st to our expense ratio, that nominal, $10K per month spend, and show quickly through the budget, if I could, go up to March. And if I look down here, we've already noted in August that we spent a bit more than the $10K that we were hoping. I mentioned why along the way just a minute ago, so I won't go back in and look at that one. July, again, on the nominal spend, it looks like the $8,200 is well below the 10, so we're okay there. In June, though, I certainly wanted to spend around 10K, but we've spent $65,000. That's an eye-opener. If I look down here, not at income, because there's nothing coming in, but in my expenses, what quickly do I see? Oh, it looks like in my auto bucket, I've got a $57,000 expense instead of $675 expected. And I quickly see that I made an auto payment. I bought a truck. I mentioned that in one of the other videos. Beth and I wanted to do more adventuring, seeing more of the United States, national parks, high peaking all the states. We wanted to do that with a better vehicle instead of a Pilot. I bought a pickup, so that's that expense. It's a one-time expense. I don't expect that to happen yearly. And it was a gift to myself after working 35 years. I wanted to use some money and actually get myself a better vehicle. So I did. And again, I didn't take a loan out because the dealership wasn't given any advantages to take a loan. So if you get rid of the, basically the $57,000 on that expense, on $65,000 total spend, it's an $8,000 difference. So again, that's within the nominal $10K budget. I think we're doing well there. This one's under 10 grand. Again, looking good on that front. And then last but not least, I see one in April, and I'll just highlight this really quick because it's one of the things I want to note is on the expenses front. If I look at April, where do I see it's not here? Got a $220 bucket, but I only spent $178. Bills, they're similar to where I want to be. Nothing serious difference, not a $7,000 difference. Food and dining close to the $1,000 I mentioned. Nothing in health and fitness or gifts. Nothing in home. Nothing with the kids other than my normal fixed expense. Nothing's personal care. Nothing really in shopping. Nothing in travel. We didn't travel in April. Oh, here we go. So down here, last but not least, U.S. Taxes. And for folks that might be higher earners as they retire, what I've always had to do was pay estimated taxes to pay for the taxes that the company didn't take out. And so here's my estimated first Q1 tax for $10,000. And if you look at that, if you take 10K out of that, that won't be a normal every quarter expense. Going into retirement, I'm down to $7,000 of spend that Beth and I did in the month of April. I could keep going here, but net, I look at the numbers. I know just as a quick one in March, I know in March I had to buy a new computer that I'm using to this video on. I had to buy a mobile phone because both of those were things that the company, I used to get from the company, so I offer up. Those are things to expect yourself, things you'll have to rebuy if your company takes your assets back. I know that was it, and I think that was when insurance started as well. So I know as I've looked at these numbers very well within the $10,000 a month budget that I've set up. And so that's the good news. Tool let me see it, let me understand my expense flow and some of the anomalies that we have to deal with like healthcare. So that's it on the tooling. Now we'll go into key takeaways. Okay, so the key takeaways of retirement expenses. Number one, post-retirement, your expenses can go up. Like you saw in Beth and I's experience, our expenses have risen, not unexpectedly. We understood that going into this, but it's important for you to know that expenses could go up. Depending on one big factor could be your health care, how you're going to be able to pay for it and what the cost is going to be depending on your age. That's one big thing that could change. The other key takeaway is you need to make sure you're planning for the bigger expenses in retirement. In our case, I had some estimated taxes that I had to pay along the way, so that was cash that was going to need to make sure I could match the outflows for this year. In regards to additional taxes, I had expected to pay for a new car and buy it, so that was cash flow. I needed a budget for it. The other thing is, get into retirement, we need two numbers. One around what your fixed expenses are going to be, that every month what your hard costs are going to be, versus the nominal spend you want to hit. Those two numbers could be very much different depending on how much portfolio will provide in regards to a spend over that fixed budget. So in my case, you saw the fixed budget and the nominal spend that Beth and I could have was around 10K per month, plus or minus a bit. Last but not least, I've mentioned this dang near every video. If you don't have a budgeting tool to automate this process, to manage your cash flow and validate that you're on track, I think it's important that one start to look to do that. Again, in my world, I use Quicken from Intuit. They also do TurboTax. There's a bunch of leverage there in regards to being able to have one tool do a lot of things for you. So I offer up that as a potential option for you. If you're looking to get a budgeting tool. But outside of that, very, very happy. Beth and I are headed off on another wonderful adventure here tomorrow. Retirement is absolutely fabulous. From the numbers that we just walked through, very much on track with what I thought and what we thought was we were going to need from a cash flow basis, from an expense standpoint, to keep in retirement and stay happy in retirement. Look, if you're not yet in retirement, I offer follow along with some of these videos. Subscribe if you like the information, the content. Hit the like button. Help us understand by commenting what you want to hear more of, or what you see positive in what you've already heard. Save more. Get on this bus, man. Retirement's awesome. We only live once, so do this as quick as possible. See you soon out on the trails. Bye for now.